My friends, welcome to episode 21 of Vibe with Venerables, 1 hour of live Dharma and dialogue where you get to talk directly to a respected Venerable. I'm Ming, co-founder of Buddhism-dot-net and your host. Today, our friend Venerable Lamsel has returned to offer us another round of teaching. Venerable Lamsel took Anagarica precepts in 2017 and received full ordination in 2024. She teaches classes in the local community and online, and her duties at the Abbey includes broadcasting and archival of live teachings, prison outreach, and event management. The topic today will still continue to be equanimity, and Venerable Lamsel will talk about how we cultivate inner freedom through cultivating equanimity. As usual, Venerable will speak for about 30 minutes and then answer your questions live. As a reminder, this session will be recorded and uploaded onto YouTube later. And if you're comfortable doing so, we'd like to invite you to turn your camera on so that Venerable can see your beautiful faces on the screen in front of her. Yeah, they love faces. I mean, all the monastics, they're like people persons. So they like people. So with that, my friends, let's invite Venerable Lamsel. Can you lead us into a prayer?
Sure. Thank you again for having me today. And I do invite you to turn on your cameras. It's so nice to be able to see the exchange that we can have during the talk, so I can see how things are landing. And lovely to see many people from last week here again. So there'll be some recitations that Angela will put in the chat box. I'll lead those, and then we can just follow the breath. I'll set a motivation and lead it in a short meditation that will be the basis of some of what we'll go into today as part of the talk. So follow along as you wish. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. May all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May all sentient beings be free of suffering and its causes. May all sentient beings not be separated from sorrowless bliss. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free of bias, attachment, and anger. And so just come back to your breath for a few moments, putting down anything that you were doing before, pausing on anything that you'll be doing after. Really bring your presence to this moment, to what we're doing here, so we can gain the most benefit of this short time together. And to set our motivation, the four measurables, which we'll be discussing one part of tonight, is really a way to cultivate healthy relationships. Our life is embedded in relationships with each other. And yet too often the afflictions, anger, attachment, ignorance, wreak havoc, cause a lot of pain, unhappiness. And these four measurables of love, compassion, joy, and equanimity show us different ways of moving in the world. So let's rejoice that we have an interest in an alternative, in cultivating healthy, joyful relationships, both in the short term of just this life, but in that longer term perspective of many lifetimes, where through practicing these four immeasurables, we can create the causes to have lasting peace and happiness, and show others the way to cultivate that too, in terms of working towards liberation. And as a way to understand what we are talking about in terms of equanimity, let's do a short reflection. And so I'll pose some questions and just see what bubbles up. There's no right or wrong answer. It's more a matter of listening to ourselves, paying attention to the reality of how we're thinking. So bring to mind an individual or group of people who you're attached to, you like very much, you enjoy being in their presence. Why is it that you're attached to them? Why do you enjoy being with them? And then bring to mind a difficult person, someone who maybe brings up fear or discomfort, maybe someone you can admit you're actually angry at or have resentment towards. Why is it that you don't like them? Why do you not want to be in their presence? And again, there's no right or wrong answer, just listen to what comes up. And finally, bring to mind a few people who would fall into the category of stranger. You don't really know them very well. Why is it that you're kind of indifferent towards them? Why is there this absence of care and affection?
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
So, the basis of equanimity is trying to free ourselves from this bias of being attached to some people, averse to others, and indifferent to people we call strangers. But to really overcome this bias, we kind of have to understand the basis of it, right? Then we can apply the antidotes when we understand what's going on in our mind. And so the reflection that I just led can be quite revealing if we can be honest with ourselves. But it does require being honest with ourselves. Because you may have noticed that, and the answers that came up, why do I like these people? Well, because they're nice to me. They praise me, they give me what I want, they don't criticize me, they flatter me, or we've had this long-term relationship where it affirms my ego in some way, right? Whereas, why don't I like these other people? Because they do criticize me, in public or private. They point out my faults, they don't do what I want. They disrespect me in whatever way that means, in terms, again, of not affirming how I like to view myself, or they don't cooperate. And then the strangers, well, they're basically irrelevant, right? They're not relevant to my life. I can walk past someone, navigating them basically like furniture in a room, because they don't benefit me and they're not harming me. So none of this sounds very tasteful, right? It's a bit ugly to admit. But if we look closely, I mean, this is my personal experience. It's like, yeah, that is kind of how I navigate in these three categories the people around me. It's not how I would like to navigate the world around me, but this can be a default. And so we're wanting to free ourselves from this so that we can cultivate a loving, kind, warm heart that's very impartial towards others. But we need to kind of see where we are now and then where we'd like to go, and then try and find the pathway to get there, right? And so the key here, if we can kind of admit it to ourselves, is that the problem is that it's all about me. How that one treats me, whether I like how they treat me, or I don't like how they treat me, or if they're irrelevant to me. So that's a very narrow view of the world, a very narrow, restricted view of other people that actually doesn't really recognize them as their own independent person with thoughts, feelings, aspirations, fears, dreams, concerns, a whole life that these individuals have, that we're just reducing them to how they relate to me. And yeah, it's a very distorted perspective. And so there are kind of two main antidotes that we can use to broaden the perspective and kind of free ourselves from this narrow restriction of this bias, but also free the other people that we're putting into boxes, and relating to them in a very one-dimensional way that doesn't actually reflect how they exist. And so the first antidote is recognizing that these roles, these three categories that we can drop people in, are actually impermanent. They're not fixed. I mean, even in one day, they're not fixed, let alone in one lifetime. And then we think, multiple lifetimes, then it gets really complex. But, on one day, you can even, if we live with other people, whether they're our partner or they're our friend or just a roommate, we can see, we wake up in the morning, they make us a cup of tea, they're my friend. They don't wash the lunch dishes, they leave it for me to do, they become the enemy. we're rushing somewhere to an event where they don't have anything to do with it. We try and get out of my way, I need to go. They're irrelevant, they're a stranger. Like one person, each category one day. And those are small instances. But even on a larger scale, we can see, we're born, everyone's a stranger. Then from there, we build up relationships with people. But, I'm not in contact with any of the friends that I had in primary school. I'm very infrequently in contact with friends I had in high school through living in, this is my third country I live in now. So the international moves really kind of ended a lot of relationships, not out of animosity, just out of, long distance communication has its limits, right? Even in this digital world. So friends become strangers, those who are enemies become friends, and things just cycle. So if seeing that impermanence of categories, and if we reflect on that deeply, it's then why put so much emphasis on these categories, so attached to those who benefit us, when day to day those who benefit us change? Or why be so cold and indifferent to those who we don't yet know well, when in the next day or week or year, these could be very important, intimate friends? And broadening that out even to many lifetimes, we can see that, everyone has been very close to us. Friends in the past, a mother in the past, daughter, child, brother. If that idea of rebirth is comfortable for us to put on, then these categories in this very lifetime start to feel very small. And then we can kind of embrace this more even-minded, equanimous attitude towards others. Yeah. And then the second antidote that can help, and I think these work very well in tandem together. And this one is very powerful in terms of recognizing that everyone wants to have happiness, to be happy, and no one wants to suffer. And then the categories are basically irrelevant because we're connecting with each other in a much more fundamental, important way. I think the Dalai Lama says that this is the most intimate thing that we can know about anyone. Is that at the very base, no matter what they do, no matter what skillful or unskillful means they are using to gain that happiness, whether we agree with it or not, in everything they do, in every action, the way they make their tea, how they get dressed, what career they're doing, even if they don't like their career, there's some reason why they're doing it. Every action trying to be happy and not suffer. And if we can connect on that level, then there's a sense of connection and understanding and warm-heartedness that we can have towards everyone. And then anyone we meet, we can connect with them at that level of, oh, another sentient being who's wanting to be happy and not suffer. I actually know quite a lot about them already just on that basis. And then, as the Dalai Lama says, then we can greet everyone as a friend. My goodness, what personal benefit we would gain if we could engage with everyone we meet with that warm-hearted affection right from the start, as opposed to suspicion or fear or impatience or this sense of irrelevance if we don't see how they're quite going to benefit me in that moment. And this is the last of the four immeasurables that we're talking about. So we've looked at immeasurable love, where we're wishing others to have happiness in its causes. We've looked at immeasurable compassion, wanting others to be free of suffering in its causes. And then immeasurable joy, wishing others to be free, to have happiness that isn't tainted by suffering, which at the ultimate level is not just wishing them to have temporary happiness, but the happiness of liberation and full awakening. Wow. Huge. And we rejoice in all the way from this life up to enlightenment. We rejoice in all the happiness and opportunities that they have. But if we don't have equanimity, then our love and our compassion and our empathetic joy is really narrow, because it's only going to be for those who fall into the category of those that we like. Because anger, those that we dislike, the definition of anger is wanting to harm. We're exaggerating or seeing some fault in others and wishing to get away from it or to destroy it. That doesn't match up with love or compassion or joy. So we really need to cultivate this sense of equanimity, where we are not biased, liking some, not liking others, and treating others as just furniture in the room to navigate to get what we want. So for the other three immeasurables to take root in our heart, for our love and compassion to be immeasurable, to know no bounds, either in the extent that we have cultivated in our heart, or to know no extent in terms of who it covers, then this equanimity is really important. And this is why in different versions of the equanimity prayer, sometimes it's at the beginning and sometimes it's at the end. And it's good in both places. But sometimes the reason of having it at the beginning is because it is the foundation in a way of which the others have to build. And this is also in a 7-point cause and effect meditation to cultivate bodhicitta, the sense of I will become a Buddha in order to lead all sentient beings to this lasting state of peace and happiness. We have to start with this foundation of equal care and concern for all beings. Otherwise, bodhicitta doesn't work. Quite simply, or great compassion, great love, immeasurable compassion. The immeasurable aspect is not there. And to address maybe a few qualms, this equanimity, this equal-hearted sense of care and concern does not mean that we actually treat everyone the same. That's impractical. I remember in one retreat, one man asked Venerable children, a bit confused, saying, so does that mean that I treat everyone like my wife? Like, am I meant to, do I relate to every woman like my wife? It's like, no. But we have this sense of equal care and concern, but we relate to our family members in a different way that's based on the established relationships that we have. And equanimity also doesn't mean that we trust everyone equally. We don't, different people have different levels of skill, different capabilities based just even on age. I think, a classic example given is that we wouldn't trust a 3-year-old with a pair of matches. There's just practicality. So that doesn't mean that we care any less for the 3-year-old than we would with the adult that we trust them with the matches. Or even in terms of working with trust, it's like if someone who we are working with, we know, or who is in our workplace, maybe they are not so great at sharing responsibilities. They don't necessarily do their fair share of the work. Maybe we choose not to work with them on a team or to work with them on a particular project because we know, or we have a good guess, that maybe we end up having to do a little bit more and that just doesn't work for us right now. We can make a decision like to not collaborate with this person on a particular project with a sense of equanimity that is not putting them down or is not having any less concern for their welfare, but still we make a decision of who we collaborate with or who we trust with different projects or different responsibilities. So it doesn't negate these distinctions or these decisions that we might make. It's more, the equanimity is a very internal attitude. And also, they talk about near and far enemies of each of the four immeasurables. And with equanimity, a near enemy, which means that it could look like equanimity, but it's not, is apathy, this coolness, this coldness. So equanimity is also not this indifference, it's warm-heartedness. But it's this warm-heartedness that covers everyone, where we're not favoring some, pulling back from others. And there's this one quote, and I highly recommend this book. It's called An Open-Hearted Life, that Venerable Thubten wrote with Dr. Russell Colts, professor of psychology at Eastern University. And this just stopped me in my tracks when I read this. I'm going to read this one phrase to you, where she says, "In short, equanimity gives us the inner freedom to stop making our feelings towards others dependent on the way that they treat us." So I'm going to read that again. In short, equanimity gives us the inner freedom to stop making our feelings towards others dependent on the way that they treat us. This is mind-blowing. Personally, it means that no matter what anyone does to us or to those we care about, or even on a larger world scale, it doesn't mean we agree with it or that we like it. But we have a choice about how internally we respond to that, and also how we hold these other sentient beings. That we don't disproportionately like someone or grow close or attached because they do the things that we like. We don't rest in or cultivate anger or hatred towards those who harm us or those that we care about. Or we're not indifferent to others because they don't seem relevant to us in this very moment. Because we have a bigger view. We see beyond the fleeting appearances of the moment, where someone's appearing in a certain way as friend, enemy, or stranger. We can see beyond that. We have the freedom to see beyond that because we recognize, again, that these categories, these momentary categories that people seem to fall into are impermanent. They change within one day. They change day to day, week to week, year to year, life to life. And more profoundly, every being is desperately wanting happiness and to not suffer. So how can we put them into these restrictive categories that are kind of illusory anyway of our own creation based on how they treat us? Because my friend is that person's enemy, and that person's friend is my enemy. So again, it challenges this solidity that seems to be there. We can cultivate this warm-heartedness that wishes others to be happy, to be free from suffering, no matter what they're doing. Because if they were happy, truly happy, then speaking of those we have difficulty with, they wouldn't be doing the harmful behavior that we object to. Because a lot of, harmful behavior comes from suffering largely, if it is actually harmful behavior and just not something that we don't like out of personal preference. That's also interesting to look at. But yeah, it does raise interesting questions, though, around how can I not get angry with someone who's harming me? That goes into a whole nother topic of working with our anger, fortitude. But again, coming back to questioning these categories we put others in, looking beyond the superficial appearances of how people relate to us, and trying to have that bigger scope where no matter what anyone is doing, to really wish them to be happy, free from suffering. And really, to be able to do that, a great motivating force is really to see beyond just this life, the much bigger picture. And getting clear also when we look at the categories of friend, enemy, and stranger, seeing that the 3 root afflictions are behind it: attachment, anger, ignorance, or confusion. And those afflictions are actually our real enemy, nothing external. And those 3 afflictions are the target of our practice. And through finding the antidotes to them, then we can have true inner freedom, and then have the resources to help show others the way to freedom as well. Yeah. I think I've come to the time, Ming.
Thank you, Venerable. Okay, we've now entered the discussion part of our talk, our program. So for this, my friends, I'd like to invite all of you to take a moment to breathe and reflect on today's teaching. How does the talk relate to your life? And how do you want to apply these teachings? So let's reflect for a couple of seconds. Thank you. If you have any questions for the Venerable or any reflections you'd like to share with the Venerable, as usual, please use the hand-raising function on Zoom, and then I will invite you to unmute yourself. And while we're waiting, Venerable, I have a question for you. I'm wondering how these practices change your life.
Well, quite dramatically, really. I mean, I'm an only child from a very small family. And being in large groups is kind of like, find the wall to kind of hide from people that I don't know. And much more comfortable being in small groups and with people that I know and feel comfortable with. So with friends, right? And people that I don't know are kind of strangers, and to be wary, and I'm not sure how, all about me, how they will receive me, will I be criticized, will they like me? And this sense of equanimity kind of blows it out of the water. I mean, and here today actually is one of those days at the Abbey where it's essentially an open house. And so everyone is invited to come and spend the whole day with us. And it's called Sharing the Dharma Day. We stream it online, and the locals come.
Question, how often do you do that? How often do you do open day?
Once a month.
Once a month.
Yeah. Okay. And I remember when I first moved here, I hated it. It was like the day of the month that I dreaded because I'd have to talk to all these people I didn't know. And because, I was in my blue Anagarika outfit. And so, like target for people to come and talk to. I mean, it's what we're here for. It's the whole point of the days to welcome. But my sense of self-consciousness and lack of equanimity made it so painful because of just my afflictions. Whereas by virtue of having done the equanimity meditation a fair few times, but also basically recognizing the pain of the lack of equanimity, the lack of warm-hearted concern for others, and kind of seeing like, this isn't meant to be the outcome of this day, of my own quite intense discomfort with this situation. It's like, this is something to look at, Lamsel. What's going on here? And it's because all the focus was on me. And when through the years, the focus became, how can I welcome people who are coming and show them the community and show them the benefit of the teachings and make them feel safe and comfortable and show them where the tea is and show them the statue or explain a little bit about my life because that's what they want to know about. When it wasn't focused here and it was there, oh, these days became joyful.
Wow.
And it was a matter of like, oh wow, new friends are coming, right? And then more joy when repeated friends come. It's like, oh, and then when you remember their name or you remember, the problem with the child that they were talking about before or the project that they were working on and their face lights up because you remember, because they feel seen and heard and cared for. That is rewarding. Yeah.
Wow.
And it's small things. Like that doesn't take much effort, really, but it takes a mind that is more concerned about the other person than what I want or how I feel or what do they think about me or yeah.
How long did it take you from that to this? Was it like a couple of weeks or was it like
A couple
longer?
of years. A couple of years. I mean, it was I can't remember. At least I think that was probably a year and a half where
hmm
I
hmm
really it took me a while to really shift
mm
the self-consciousness and the
mm
self-centeredness and yeah, not getting the bigger picture.
mm
What's harder is that's working with more a stranger. But what's harder for me, I find, is working with the anger piece,
mm
transforming like the enemy image of others. That because there's more reasons there of why that person harmed me.
mm
So that's an ongoing project.
I see. So that's beautiful because it tells us two things, right? I mean, it tells us one that the practice works and it's life changing, right? Going from that shy person to like this person who welcomes people and make people feel happy. And the second thing is it, even though it works, it takes time. So don't expect to do it tomorrow. So there's patience involved.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mm,
I mean,
mm,
it's shifting. I mean, in,
mm,
in my situation, like deeply ingrained habits
mhm,
and ways of thinking. So yeah, of course, it takes time. It's repetition.
mhm, Thank you. So let's see. Dr. Chang has a question.
Hello, Venerable Lamsel. I'd like to explore your advice to my situation. So, since I was young, I have been trying to be kind to other people, and I have many people who love me and also who feel I'm very close person to them. So, but the thing is, I have only one body, and then uh, I have very limited time and energy. But for example, I have a big family in terms of relative, and then in my heart, I wanna make a call to this uncle, and this aunt, and because they are like over 70 years old, and I wanna check in with them. I know they were hospitalized, things like that. I wanna visit them. So, and also for friends, the same. And many of my friends and relatives, they think, oh, Jian, you graduated? Then like, oh, let's make a call to check in. But um, so it's kind of natural process. But I feel that it's just too much for me. And I try to learn how to set up boundary, but also you mentioned in today's talk that like we care for all the beings doesn't necessarily mean that we treat all the people the same. So I thought I really need that wisdom, but in my real life, I'm very bad at it. And then even like to the strangers when I meet someone, then I tend to talk with them and then they feel like, oh, you became my friend. And then they ask for a coffee or a meal. But I feel bad when I tell like, oh, now I'm busy, so maybe later. But after saying no to like 3 times, I feel really bad to say no again. So I don't know how to navigate this kind of thing while keeping equanimity, but also how to treat other people. So sometimes thinking like I should be try not to be kind to other people because I feel very bad about saying no when my friends uh need to not need they want to talk with me and things like that.
How to
So
kind of
any
balance
advice for
your
me?
capacity with the requests that are coming in. Yeah. What immediately comes to mind is how the love and the compassion and equanimity and joy, they're all internal attitudes. And of course, we are wanting them to motivate our actions, not necessarily. But as you said, at this point in time, we have one body and we have limited capacity. So we have to just rejoice in what we can do, knowing that it's not what we would like it to be, and for that to be good enough. And then to have the aspiration to be able to do more in the future, whether it's this life or next. And there's ways that we can cultivate in our meditation, on the cushion, off the cushion, at the end of the day, dedicating our merits to others in a way that feels like we are still contributing to their welfare. We still have them in our sphere of concern. We don't have to necessarily be doing anything, but by holding them in our heart, and dedicating the merit that all the merit that we've created that day to our uncles in the hospital. May the virtue that I created today bring peace and happiness and ease and joy to his mind and his body. And then we can kind of, for that one example, then we can kind of rest at ease. It's like, okay, today I don't have the mental or physical capacity to make that call, but I am calling him in my heart and dedicating that merit there. And that's good enough. And in the next week or month, maybe I'll get to make a call, judging on the urgency or what's possible. But the lack of action isn't through any fault. It's just working with causes and conditions. And then you can kind of esteem your sense of love and care and grow it actually, without maybe this sense of burden. It sounds like there's this sense of burden around, I like a bit of heaviness of like, I want to do so much, but you're seeing that it's limited. Whereas if we can flip that attitude to being like, wow, I have this beautiful heart that's wanting to benefit others. And wow, it's quite special actually that others are open to making that connection with you. That's very precious. And you can nourish that through cultivating this heart that wishes to be of benefit in whatever way you can, whether it's just mentally, or the metta meditation, sending them metta. And I think doing things on like whatever you can in the physical, verbal realm, great. And on the mental level, we can also do a lot that I believe does actually make a difference to the other people, but also keeps us inspired and motivated and moving in a direction where when the right time comes, we can act in a very powerful way to be of benefit. And equally, with the example that you give around, with strangers making that connection and they want more, to be at ease with like rejoicing in making that connection. May it grow into a beautiful thing in the future, this life or next. And you just work with what is available. Don't have to judge yourself or see it as a problem that you can't meet everyone for a lunch date when they ask for it. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, there are many things I can do, but thank you so much. I wrote it down here and then like, wow, I noticed that, yeah, I can do, like I can cultivate my kindness and compassion like in a different way, yeah, without, yeah, sacrificing it. Well, thank you so much for your wisdom.
Thank you very much. That was beautiful. I guess June has the problem of being loved by too many people.
Yeah.
Okay, Lynn, please unmute yourself.
Good evening, Venerable. I am Brad. I am Lynn's friend, and you answered a bit of my question in your last answer. But so when I thought about an enemy, it was hard to think of an enemy, but there is, I did focus on a person who I find disagreeable. And this person touches many lives in our community. And this person has many qualities that I like, and so there's a lot of likable things about this person. But there are certain characteristics that they have that I think comes out of a place, as you mentioned in your talk, comes out of a place of pain and suffering. My compassion for this individual and knowing how many lives they touch, I would like to in my own way to help lead them out of that pain and suffering. And you talked about using equanimity to help them along that path. And so there is the, I mean, you mentioned the physical, the verbal, and then you mentioned the spiritual. What, I mean, besides me modeling, well, one of the characteristics I find is honesty. They have a bit of a blowhard thing, which I think comes from their esteem, and then there's an honesty issue that they don't always live up to the ideal in that way. And so, what does it look like as far as my compassion for them, my equanimity? What does it look like as far as helping leading them, besides modeling honesty? What does it look like for me to help them along the path out of their suffering and out of their pain?
Well, a few things are coming to mind. First is people have to be ready to receive the help that we want to offer them. And we cannot make someone ready to change. So that's another element of equanimity, where to remain open-hearted towards someone who, despite all the best intentions and offers for help, doesn't change or isn't changing how we want them to. That's kind of like the worst case scenario, right? Like the behaviors continue, we try and help, and to not close the door of our heart, but to remain open, because people do change in the long term. And if we keep that door open, then at some point, because we haven't shut down or criticized or made them an enemy, that door is still open. Then they can come to us as a safe person, and then we can help them. But it sounds like in the present situation that help could be provided by being courageous enough to let them know how their dishonesty is affecting you. And in this sense of equanimity, it'd be able to, the sense of fortitude, having the fortitude to mirror back to them, when, and I love nonviolent communication as a means of sharing with others, having difficult conversations in a way that will hopefully be skillful, in terms of when I hear you say this, which according to my understanding is not correct, I feel sad because my need for trust and honesty isn't met. would you be willing to explain to me why there seems to be this discrepancy between what I understand to be the facts in your speech, or something like that, where you can show them the impact individually or indicate it on a broader scale, appealing to, like, it sounds like you're a person of social influence, and therefore your dishonesty can have a quite profound impact in not a helpful way. But that requires courage to potentially become an object of their anger if they don't like what they're hearing. But that's actually being a true spiritual friend, by advising others when they are acting unethically. And I know, as part of the monastic community, we advise each other. And often in the moment when that advice is being given, it is not necessarily received well, because no one likes their faults being pointed out. But I really appreciate those. I have growing trust and confidence and reliance upon those who have the courage to point things out to me that I do not want to hear, or I cannot even see. So that, yeah.
That makes sense. Yes, as far as kind of it would take courage to have that kind of conversation, and I have this individual actually answers to a board that I'm on, and I haven't necessarily publicly shamed them. I've probably pushed up against that boundary, but even in partnerships, as far as using loving language. So as you say, that it gets received in a positive way, in a kind of a self-improvement way, to reflect to them how many lives that they are touching and how many things they are touching because of the discrepancy in what they've promised or represented and what the outcome actually is. I like that.
Yeah, and as you said, like, publicly shaming them would probably not bring a desired outcome, whereas a private one-on-one conversation where it's like, hey, I want to help you here, then the resistance may still come out full force, but it would probably be they'll probably walk away from that conversation much more willing to listen without the distraction of, you humiliated me in front of a whole group. So, yeah.
Thank you. Okay, Peggy, you have the last question. Please unmute yourself.
Thank you. You somewhat addressed my my question, or the advice I'm seeking with when you responded to Meng. I really tried to let the first thoughts that came to me in terms of when you said, think of someone that you like or you love, and I immediately thought of my husband and my daughters, and the why was, well, just because they bring me joy. I couldn't think of anything else. That wasn't the problem. And then when I thought of someone that I don't like, it wasn't even somebody that I know. I mean, it's somebody that's a political figure that I have a real hard time with their values and how they conflict with mine. And in some ways, I've been working really hard on that to try to understand that they are suffering, and that I do a loving kindness meditation for that person, and it helps to tamper. But what I was disturbed by was really my reaction to the indifferent. For me, the complete stranger is not somebody I'm indifferent to. Somebody I pass on the street or on the bus, I am always, since I was a kid, was taught you smile and you acknowledge. And so the perfect stranger, I don't feel anything but kindness towards. It was when I tried what came to mind of indifferent, I thought of I was in a Zoom book club with people for the first time, and they came to my mind, and I started to realize that I was not really indifferent to them. I started to feel judgy, more so in some ways that it surprised me, and I was feeling horrible about myself. It's like, these are strangers really, but I've already coming in with, yeah, you're this, you're that, and I'm going to say this, and I think that. And I thought, oh my God, this is horrible. But anyway, thank you for this practice. It really opened up to me something very distasteful that I need to work on.
Yeah, and please know that you're not alone. I mean, these are the afflictions that we're all working with, right? And this is the power, and that's why I tried to couch the reflection on in terms of like needing to be honest with ourselves, and then having that kind of inner fortitude to be like, wow, okay, that's not quite so cool, but we can change it. But we need to, like, I love the analogy of we need to see the dirt before we can clean it, right? We need to see it right there, see the extent of the damage, and then assess what tool we need to clean it out with, and then get to work. And know that with some stains, it's going to take repeated washings with different tools, but it can come out. But yeah, the judgmental mind is a very interesting one. The opinion factory that we have, where you see how quickly we put people into boxes based on what they wear, how they speak, how they move. So limiting. Yeah, and unhelpful really when we limit ourselves, limit others based on these thoughts that don't necessarily hold much water. Yeah.
Venerable, I have a follow-up for Peggy's question. So is it something that you also do? Like, do you go into a room and then like a bunch of strangers, you think, oh, this guy's a loud mouth, this guy, I don't like this guy. And if you do, like, what is your like mental strategy immediately to take care of that situation?
I mean, yeah, it does come up. I mean, stereotypes and
Even
bias.
you?
Of course, ordinary being. Yeah, of course it's there. And I mean, just the visuals of how people dress. I mean, especially I notice it particularly on days such as these with the open house, because usually we all wear this, right? Like
Yep, I always wear this.
undifferentiable sea of people, and then you get visitors coming in wearing different things, and it triggers the different associations. You know, this hairstyle, this type of clothes. And this is where I appreciate the training we receive by Venerable children around humor. And just to like kind of like laugh at myself of like, just cut it. Like, that's stupid. Like, you don't know. And even to get curious. I think curiosity is a really powerful mental attitude. Because if we're curious, even in the situation of working with anger, to get curious about why that person's acting how they are, and this can be a verbal thing in terms of asking someone, but it doesn't have to be. It can also be just this mental, like, try and think why they're acting how they are. They're an intelligent person who wants happiness and doesn't want to suffer. Why would they be doing this? There's good reasons. But with the judgments, like to kind of just like flick them away as this pesky, annoying little voice that has no relevance, or to try and challenge it and to go up to the person and talk with them. And then it's like that we had yesterday 10 people from the Vets for Peace organization came to have lunch at the Abbey. And so at each table, there were two different of the veterans. And so I was sitting across from one woman, and we start talking, and it's like, oh, she spent 17 years living in Africa. She has 4 biracial children. She speaks the language that's spoken in Sierra Leone. It's like, I would have no idea of this amazing life story and the capacity and interests of this woman by how she looks. But it's engaging. And I think just drawing on those examples where our preconceptions have been blown out of the water before to like, hey, no. You don't know. You think you know, but you don't know. And to lean in to get more curious. Yeah.
Thank you. That's very helpful. I think the first misconception that gets blown is, so do you like to operate on animals? No, not at how, vet. Oh, I'm kidding. That's a stupid joke. With that, Venerable, can we invite you to close with a closing prayer and a blessing?
Sure. Let's just take a moment and really appreciate the goodness that we have generated together in this space this last hour, this interest in wanting to cultivate all-encompassing warm-heartedness towards all living beings. And may whatever we have talked about today really take root in our heart. May we not leave it just here, but to practice it, practice extending our love and concern to all beings, because we see that they are just like us. And how wonderful it would be if all beings were truly free from suffering, had happiness and mental ease. And may we cultivate this equanimity in our own heart so that we can help everyone attain the lasting peace and happiness that they seek. And so you can imagine this warm-heartedness as a ball of light at your heart that reaches out to all living beings, going out in all directions. And we'll dedicate the merit, the positive potential of our time together for the welfare of all living beings. Due to this merit, may we soon attain the awakened state of Guru Buddha, that we may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their sufferings. May the precious Bodhi mind not yet born arise and grow. May the born have no decline, but increase forevermore.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you, Venerable. My friends, please all bow to our teacher. Thank you, Venerable Lamsel, for being with us. Friends, this recording will be uploaded onto the Buddhism-dot-net YouTube channel. And please like and subscribe. It will help us a lot. And if you are inspired to practice dāna or generosity towards Venerable Lamsel, please donate directly to Sarvasti Abbey. We'll be sharing the link by chat and by email. So next week, we have a new friend, Venerable Monlam, who will close our series on equanimity. Her class will also be the last class that Sarvasti Abbey will have with us for 2025, which means that after that, you have to wait until next year to talk to one of the wonderful teachers from Sarvasti Abbey. Oh. So please don't miss out. I will see you all next week. With that, my friends, thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. And yeah, feel free to unmute yourself to say goodbye to your Venerable.
Thank you.
This was wonderful and so helpful. I've never really understood in my heart what equanimity is until today. So thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Venerable. Thank you, Meng, and your team. Bye now. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Yeah, my team is the best. I don't do anything. My team does all the work.
You are there. That counts. Thank you.